Okay, welcome back to Here's the Deal, The Disturbing Illusion on YouTube, High Impact Flicks on Facebook and Twitter, and High Impact Flicks Official on Rumble. I appreciate you guys being here. Now, let me just preface this live stream by saying there are some things that I'm going to say that you are going to absolutely disagree with until you hear all of what I have to say, okay? Because this right here cannot be tolerated on American soil. As a matter of fact, this right here, what you're seeing right there is absolutely, objectively un-American, unconstitutional, if you want to put it that way, and anti-human being. And there are culprits and there are villains, and we are going to go over them. But I want you to understand, from my perspective, I'm not a constitutionalist. And the reason I'm not is because I don't believe things like Congress has the power to lay and collect taxes. Congress has the power to stick their hands as deep into your pockets as they want to, as long as their other 535 buddies in Congress say it's okay. Hey, it must be okay. So I'm on board with Lysander Spooner, who said, no matter what the Constitution is, this thing is certain. It's either authorized such a tyrannical government as we have, or it's been powerless to stop it. In either case, it's unfit to exist. And this right here is a picture of tyranny. That's the back of Owen Schroyer. You have the red marks of the laser pointers where they've got their guns trained on this man's back, this innocent man's back, for no freaking reason, because they got a call. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the real villains in the story. We're going to talk about, okay, what's the alternative to this? Because we do have answers. There are answers. There are solutions to this. And I know a lot of people have got their opinions about this, but let me just ask you a question. Is there anything that you would give up in your life for security? Anything? Would you give up your freedom for security? I guess it's best to start off this video with a quote that all of you know. I mean, if you've been in the liberty movement for any period of time, you know the quote that's attributed to Benjamin Franklin. If you give up a little essential liberty for politically promised security, I've added the politically promised because that's usually what it is. They politically promise you security. Hey, I guarantee if you allow us to march into Afghanistan or Iran or bomb the Syrian airfields, we're doing that for democracy. We're doing that for your safety. We're doing that for your security. If you're willing to give up a little bit of essential freedoms for politically promised security, you don't deserve liberty or security. That's my opinion on the matter. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Let me have it. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you don't have freedom, you don't have anything. And I would rather have dangerous freedom than peaceful slavery any day of the week. And that's not just some, good sounding, liberty sounding, freedom slogan. I mean that from my heart. I would rather have dangerous freedom over peaceful security and slavery any single day of the week. The reason is because it makes things more predictable. In this predicament, things are highly unpredictable. You don't know who's at your door at 3 o'clock in the morning. But if the cops just did one thing, you would know who is at your door at 3 o'clock in the morning, because it wouldn't be the cops. And all they had to do is this one thing: honor their oath. This is the epitome of oath breaking. And the more I think about it, the more outraged and enraged I become. Because Owen, just picture that. Let's say that's you. That's your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, your grandparents, with their arms out at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, being completely humiliated and their lives being jeopardized by local law enforcement. Just picture that as being you. Put yourself in his position right there. That's you. That's not just Aaron Schroyer. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate you becoming a new member. If you haven't and you think this content is worthwhile, become a member. Do whatever you got to do. But I want to go through this. That's you. That's you, Mr. America. That's you, Miss America. That's me. That's my loved ones that you got your gun pointed at. I think we all need to take this absolutely personal, because one day it might be you. So go ahead and consider that this is you. And to not talk about Who are the real perpetrators of this crime? Yes, calling to a local law enforcement agency to get you. Basically, this is a hit. When somebody calls a local law enforcement agency and swats you, they put a hit out on your life. They're calling mercenaries who know the potential is through the roof, that you could either get tased, your dog could get shot, your baby could be flashbanged. And I'm using these specific examples because they happen and have happened. Remember Regina Nichols and Dennis Tuttle from Houston? Was that 5-6 years ago under Art Acevito's leadership? The Houston Police Department marched in there on a false call, and it cost Dennis his life, Regina her life, and their dog's life. For what? A false call from a crazy neighbor. But the people who pulled the trigger wasn't the neighbor. It was local law enforcement. It was HPD, the Houston Police Department. So this stuff can and does happen. And it can happen to you. And for us to be not properly outraged on you, Brian, you're just engaging in fear porn. No. You need to be very, very concerned about this. This is a very serious issue of not just losing your free. Not only has here, let me put it up on the screen. Not only has Owen Schroyer lost his freedom right here, he's not free to walk wherever he wants to. He's not free to say anything because they're like, you follow our commands. He's not free to be armed because if he was armed, he would have been shot. Remember Daniel Shaver? Not even armed. Not even posing a threat to anybody, trying his best to obey the rapid fire commands of the Mesa Police Department and Philip Brailsford and his henchmen as they stood bottlenecking the hallway of that La Quinta Inn in Mesa, Arizona. Daniel Shaver, clearly scared out of his frickin' mind, wearing nothing but a t-shirt and a pair of shorts, is crawling toward the cops on their command, makes one wrong move in the eyes of the law enforcers, and loses his life over what? Nothing. They got a call. Somebody at the pool saw somebody on the 5th story window who happened to be Daniel Shaver, who's a pest control guy, showing people that he invited into his hotel room a pellet rifle that he uses to control pests and get rid of rodents. And somebody freaked out at the pool, called the police, and Daniel Shaver's life is gone. Got a wife, got 2 kids, gone, did nothing wrong, committed no crime. Same thing with Owen Schroyer here. Did nothing wrong, committed no crime. And yet got his rights trampled. His rights are frozen right here, suspended animation by the very people who swore to protect, preserve, and uphold his rights. And yes, I will take the liberty to beat a dead horse here. We're going to watch. There's a release that just was released on the Counterfeit News Network, but I want to show you that cops have absolutely, people are like, then what do you do, Brian? What do you do? The local law enforcement gets a call that, somebody's talking like this. I'm in a closet right now, and the shooter outside the closet just killed my parents. It's Owen Schroyer. He's got a gun and he's coming for me. Send the police quickly. What's the solution to that? Of course, the police are going to come. Guess what? We're going to go over 2 specific Supreme Court cases, and there's more. We can give tons more, guys. There's 2 Supreme Court cases that show that American law enforcement have no duty, no obligation to protect you in any way, shape, or form. And the cases are couched in a particular context that makes it crystal clear that nobody can expect any protection from local law enforcement. And yet, and we're going to go over some examples of local law enforcement knowingly going into a particular situation, knowing there's actually a crime being committed and doing absolutely nothing about it. And we're not talking about 1 police officer, 2 police officers, or even a couple dozen police officers. We're talking about hundreds of police officers. And I'll let you guess as to what that is. Let's go over the Counterfeit News Network's covering of this first. Owen Schroyer posted this. Is CNN the only news network? And that's kind of laughable because they're not a news network. They are a propaganda firm. They operate and have been for at least since, what was it, 1980, 1981, as the propaganda arm for the military industrial complex. They are not a news network. They're a propaganda network. And I know that Owen Schroyer knows this. I'm just pointing out the facts. Is CNN the only network dedicated to dedicate a news segment to the swatting incidents on mainstream cable news industry? Check this out.
This morning, a growing number of conservative influencers are getting targeted by swatters. There have been at least a dozen incidents in recent days of...
Guess what? Indirectly, they're getting targeted by swatters. But guess who they're really being targeted by? And directly. Yeah, the person who made the call is indirectly swatting them, but who is directly swatting them? CNN's not going to talk about it. Owen Schroyer's not talking about it. InfoWars isn't talking about it. The conservatives last week who reportedly got swatted, and that's debatable, aren't talking about it. They're not talking about the real perpetrators of the real crime in this scenario. Yeah, the guys who called definitely committed a crime, but not directly. It was more indirectly. The people who actually made the decision to pull the trigger, I guess pun intended, are the SWAT teams who decided that it would be a good idea to violate their oath without a warrant, without probable cause, not even so much as reasonable articulable suspicion, to point a gun, a laser pointer gun. And it looks like some of these guys had suppressors. What's up with that? At an innocent guy who did nothing wrong. They didn't even investigate. So yeah, let's play this back. Listen to what she says here.
This morning, a growing number of conservative influencers are getting targeted by swatters. There have been at least a dozen incidents in recent days of bogus calls that draw police and first responders to the target's home, including the home of Erin Durham in North Carolina. She opened the door late at night to armed officers.
When I walked up to the door, he was pointing a gun at me, and obviously immediately stopped when he saw me. But
that should be alarming right there. When I, an American, walked up to the door of my house, the guy who's supposed to be protecting and serving me is pointing a gun at me. He doesn't have probable cause. He doesn't have a warrant signed by a judge. He doesn't even have Terry v. Ohio reasonable articulable suspicion. He's got nothing, and yet he's pointing a loaded weapon at me, probably with his finger on the trigger. That's got to stop right there. That is freaking ridiculous. If you love freedom, then you love freedom without excuse. You're not going to make excuses for these badge thugs. Well, they were just trying, there could have been dead bodies in there. There could have been a mass shooter in there, jeopardizing the lives of more people that need to be saved. Okay, so what you're saying is it's okay to give up a little essential liberty so that you can get the security that the law enforcement officer claims to be providing when he's actually put in a real situation where there's really a shooter and he really knows people are getting hurt. He doesn't do it. But in this right here, there's no investigation, no warrant, no probable cause, no reasonable articulable suspicion. But he can walk into that house or jeopardize the lives of Americans on American soil. Unfreaking believable that anybody would lower the bar, lower the standard for local, state, and federal officials. That's where tyranny begins. That's the petri dish in which it grows. It doesn't grow because there are tyrants who want to oppress you. It's because of the sheep who long to be oppressed and will make every excuse to get rid of individual liberties and even constitutional freedoms. Here, take my Fourth Amendment right to be secure in my person's household papers and effects. We understand you got a call, officer. We got a call as the supreme law of the land, not the Constitution. Oh, Brian, you're just blowing this stuff out of proportion. You're making a mountain out of a molehill.
But it was a lot of confusion, a lot of fear. I felt like I was going to pass out.
Of course, they want you to resonate on the plane of fear. They want you to tap into that frequency right there. Oh God, is tonight going to be the night? They want fear to go through your bones when they turn the cherries and berries on you because you did what? Did you harm somebody? Did you threaten to harm somebody? Did you victimize somebody anyway? Did you damage or steal property? No, you went 7 miles an hour over the speed limit, and corporate traffic policy prohibits you from doing that. They want you to be fearful. They want you to respect their authority. Nothing could be more unworthy of respect, in my opinion. If you agree, put a 1 in the room.
Most of the time that they are in the house.
This is so disturbing. The FBI and Department of Homeland Security are now investigating these incidents, and CNN had das Gold.
See, the FBI and the CIA, who won't even release the Epstein files, is going to invest. We'll get to the bottom of this and we'll find out what's going on. I'll tell you what's going on, FBI and CIA. There's a bunch of oath breakers out there willing to put Americans' rights and their lives on the chopping block because they got a call.
Is joining me now. She is looking.
Maybe I should talk like Alex Jones. It's unacceptable for any law enforcement officer, whether you're talking about local, state, or federal, to come in there and trample your Fourth Amendment right to be secure in your person's houses, papers, and effects. Where is InfoWars on this? Why aren't they calling out the true tyranny that's happening? Why aren't we getting in touch with the local law enforcement agencies going, well, how dare you guys violate your freaking oath and jeopardize the lives of Americans on American soil in the name of security and safety? Guard with jealous attention the public safety, the public security. No, Patrick Henry said, hey, the guy who said, give me liberty or give me death, he didn't say, give me security or give me death. Make sure the law enforcement officials are protecting me. Make sure they respond to a call. Make sure they take away my rights if they get a call. He said, guard with jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect anyone who comes near that precious jewel. Nothing will preserve it but downright force. And when you give up that force, what? You're ruined. So we've given it up because now we're unsure that when we come to the door, if it's an ununiformed criminal or if it's a uniformed criminal who's just looking for an opportunity to play G.I. Joe on American soil. Guard with jealous attention the public liberty, man. You can't guard liberty while you're applauding the tyrants who are taking your liberties away. Unbelievable, unacceptable, inexcusable.
Into them as well. What are you learning? Who is the target mainly, and how does this all go down?
So what we've seen is over the past 2 weeks, at least a dozen influencers have been targeted in these swattings. And not just swattings, they're also getting things like bogus pizza deliveries. Now, what we found commonality amongst all of these influencers is almost all of them have some sort of following on X. Almost all of them are pro-Trump. Many of them have interacted with actually Elon Musk, the owner of X. Some of them have millions of followers and are super well known. And some of them are some of these more smaller influencers. But again, almost all of them are pro-Trump. Many of them call themselves conservatives, and many of them have interacted with Elon Musk. Now,
I don't care who you are. I don't care what you support. You could get swatted by anybody for any reason today. That's what's so egregious about red flag gun confiscation laws. And let's call them what they are. It's a gun confiscation law under the auspices of, oh my gosh, somebody's going to harm themselves or others with a firearm. We got to go to that household right now and violate their Second Amendment right, take away their Fourth Amendment right to be secure in their person's house, papers, and effects, and take away all the rights and put them on a 72-hour hold because they may be crazy. That's what I got to. You do not give tyranny a foothold because you think it's going to make you more safe. I don't know what kind of special plant matter people are smoking, but we got to sniff the smelling salts of reality and come back to the base of what is freedom. What am I willing to give up so that I can keep my freedoms? Don't you realize there's a delicate balance between freedom and safety? And sometimes we got to give up a little bit of our freedom so that we can get that safety that only the government can provide. If you are still of the mindset that the government is here to keep you safe and to keep you from having to spend additional money that you don't need to spend, we're going to put more dollars in your pocket. We're going to create programs, a social safety net to help you. If you still think that government is here to save you, if you genuinely think that, this is probably not the channel for you to watch. You're not going to get any sympathy from me. The government will make whatever they put their hand to, they make it worse. The quality goes down, the price goes up, poverty rises, people become unsafe under the auspices of keeping them safe. Wars are started, banksters are empowered, the prison industrial complex is expanded. The list goes on. It's pretty much endless.
As you noted, swatting is very dangerous and it can be deadly. These callers will call in with bogus calls of people being shot, of a home invasion, of holding people hostage. It causes a huge response from police and emergency services, which draws them away from other actual emergencies. But if there's confusion, something could go wrong and something could go very wrong. So I actually spoke to two of these influencers. I spoke to Aaron, who you just heard from, and to...
So come up with a plan, Brian, somebody says in the room. How about do a little bit of investigation? How about make some phone calls? How about there was a vehicle in the parking lot of Owen Schroer's house? Run the license, but you have you run the license plate and everything else. Why don't you find out who this guy is? Oh, it's Owen Schroer. He's from InfoWars. Oh, we got a tip through the wire that they're doing all these swatting things. Why don't we call this guy? Oh, InfoWars. It's Alex Jones. That's like, like I said in my last video, they are willing to do this to somebody as famous as Owen Schroer, host of InfoWars, a global website that everybody knows InfoWars, everybody knows Alex Jones. Most people know who Owen Schroer is. If they're willing to do this to somebody famous, what do you think they're going to do to you? In this case, simple investigation, asking questions, starting with the 911 operator. Who are you? Where are you calling from? Why did you block your number? We need to make sure that if this is a legitimate call, there's a real number that's associated with it. It starts there. And then the operator's tipped off and then maybe calls the cops, maybe not. But if they do, how about just saying something like, you know what? Be cautious here because this may be one of those swatting calls that I'm seeing all over the internet. Maybe they're not aware there's a swatting call. But say, hey, this doesn't line up with most of the calls. And based on the hundreds, thousands of calls I've taken, this is the operator. This sounds awfully suspicious. Proceed with caution. Keep in mind, you are an oath keeper. You're not an oath breaker. The most important thing here is not lives to be saved. It's not safety to be apprehended. It's rights to be secured. That's the most important thing. Protect freedoms at all costs. You know that threshold of that door? That's a sacred place. You don't go past there unless you got a warrant from the judge. And unless that's based on probable cause that a crime has actually been committed. You got none of that. So proceed with caution. How about stake out the house for a second? How about conduct a little investigation? How about look around, see if everything's quiet, what's going on, instead of just rushing in half-cocked, ready, fire, aim like cops always do. How about that for just one off-the-cuff spitball shooting example of what could possibly be done to alleviate this problem? Super simple, easy peasy. But the first and foremost thing is freedoms. Freedoms of Americans can never be compromised. And when freedoms are compromised, guess what it's compromised under the guise of, under the mask of? Hey, this is for safety. This is for security. Look, this is for safety. This is the mask I have. This is the safety and security mask. Under that safety and security mask is tyranny. Boo! Surprise! Most freedoms are lost because the excuse that's given by tyrants is, hey, this is for your good. This is for your safety. We're going to put more dollars in your pockets. We're not going to go to war. Don't believe them. Everything that they say is false. It's not true. It doesn't just apply to political parasites, but also law enforcement operators who are going to obey those political parasites because they decided to turn their minds off and become an order follower, which is the worst possible human being that you could be on the face of the planet, because order followers do what they're told regardless of what is right. Oh, I just got orders. I heard there's somebody's, there's somebody harmed in there. We must go in. Even though when they know somebody is harmed and they know people are getting killed, they don't go in. We'll give that example here in a second. Does anybody know what I'm talking about when I refer to that right there? You know there's somebody doing some massive destruction. You know that there are lives being lost. You can hear it with your own ears. There's what they call exigent circumstances going on, but we're not going to break that threshold and go in there because we're too scared. But if we think we got a call and there might be something going on and we have absolutely nothing else to go on, well, we'll break into their house. We'll hold those people at gunpoint. Yeah, exactly. Timo's got it. Timo's got it. We're gonna, yeah, Sigvit's got it. Steve's got it. Yeah, we're gonna visit Uvalde here in a second. We are not talking about one or two police officers or a couple dozen. We are talking about 376 freaking officers from 5 different districts and departments none of which went into the Uvalde school while a reported shooter is shooting little people. And the door is unlocked, but they don't go in there, but they'll hold Owen Schroyer and you and me at gunpoint because they got a call.
Larry Taunton, she's in North Carolina.
No, it's 376 Uvalde cops. That's the final count on that from 5 different departments. 376. How many dozen is that? And not one of them. And I think one of those cops, one of the people whose life was in jeopardy was his wife or girlfriend. It was a teacher inside, and even he didn't go in.
And he's in Alabama. Both got these swatting calls right around the same time, early Sunday, right around 1 a.m. Both got bogus calls about that. They were pretending to be the homeowners, saying that they had been shot. There were other people had been shot, caused a big response. Here's what Larry said he experienced. Take a listen.
There were no sirens, no lights, no announcement, nothing. And he's trying the door handle. And I am crouched inside, armed, and I'm thinking if that man comes through my door, I'm going to light him up, because you're just thinking somebody's here to murder me and my wife.
And what's really notable is a lot of these influencers are armed. They carry guns. And so many of them are saying this could have turned really bad because I thought somebody was robbing my home. Aaron,
breaking in.
Yeah, Aaron called it a cheap form
Look at this cop with his firearm out.
of domestic terrorism. Now, the FBI and the DHS say that they are investigating this. The Secretary of Homeland Security is saying that under President Trump's leadership, we will not sit idly by as conservative new media and their families are being targeted by false swatting. She also said this is an attack on our law enforcement and innocent families and will be prosecuted as such.
Wait, let's pause right there. Hold on a second. This is Kristi Noem. She's a leader in this frickin' America that we got here. She says this is an attack on our law enforcement and innocent families, and we will prosecute as such. This is an attack by law enforcement. Brian, they don't know any better. They're just operating off a call. They don't know what's going on. Exactly. So if you don't know what's going on, especially if you don't know what's going on, you don't take away somebody's freedoms. You don't put somebody's life on a chopping block if you don't know what's going on. You don't point a gun at somebody unless you have probable cause that they committed a crime. You don't interfere with anybody's life at their own home. There is a specific promise. There's a specific standard given, and what we know is the Constitution. It's called the Fourth Amendment. It says you have the right to be secure in your home, in your houses. If you can't be secure in your house, you're not secure. If you're not free in your house, you don't have freedoms. Stop singing "Over the Land of the Free and Home of the Brave." It's ridiculous. It's laughable. You don't have those freedoms as long as the law enforcement who are attacking you are willing to trample over their oath to get to your freedoms and trash your freedoms. Kristi, this is an attack on our law enforcement. This is Kristi. This is an attack by law enforcement who refused to investigate and decided that we got a call was greater than your individual right to be secure in your home. You're blowing this out of am I really blowing this out of proportion? Am I really? This is such a bizarre thing to witness unfold before our very eyes. I can't even believe I'm doing a live stream on it. I can't even believe that I have to do a live stream on it. I can't believe that I have to justify doing a live stream on it. I can't believe that I have to come up, Brian, then what's the alternative? What's the plan? You mean the plan to outright tyranny? What's the response? What's the solution to having our rights just summarily trampled because some anonymous person decided to call somebody somewhere? You've got to be freaking kidding me.
But what makes this hard to investigate is the technology that these people use with the swatting. They spoof their phone numbers. A lot of them even use artificial intelligence to spoof the voices. But there have been prosecutions on this, and this is a very dangerous game that people are playing.
It is. It's really dangerous, and it puts a lot of people in a bad spot. The police and the people who are being swatted. It's disgusting.
That's another thing too. Police could die, and if you pew a cop, what do you think's going to happen to you? If you genuinely believe that the person at your door at I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Crazy you for thinking this. Somebody lurking outside your window or trying your door or tapping on your window or something. If you suspect that that person might be somebody who's trying to do you harm and you blow them away and it happens to be a cop, what do you think's going to happen to you? They're going to Dennis Tuttle you. They're going to Regina Nichols you. They're going to Daniel Shaver you. They're going to Johnny Hurley you. You're out of here. You're gone. Hope you got your life insurance paid up. Because if you shoot at a COP, they're going to shoot back. They're going to gather their team and they're going to peg you as the enemy because you decided to defend yourself on American soil. That's another reason why cops should not be doing this. They should not be involved in this criminality, this unconstitutional criminality. Let me just ask you this question before I go any further, okay? Is what the cops are doing constitutional or unconstitutional? When a cop comes to your house and decides that they're going to point a weapon at you, like Exhibit A here. Let's see, there we go. Exhibit A, that's Owen Schroyer with laser pointers pointed at him. On the other side of those laser pointers are militarized militarized cops pointing firearms at him. Is this unconstitutional or constitutional? Is this in accordance with the Fourth Amendment right to be secure? Is this Owen Schroyer enjoying security and safety in his own home? Or is it the exact freaking opposite? And who's the one pointing the gun? Is it the guy who made the call or the guys who received the call and didn't do any investigation? I'm going to beat a dead horse on this, and we're going to go through some examples, and we're going to talk about what the founding fathers thought about standing armies, because it sure looks like American law enforcement, who are supposed to be peace officers, are the standing armies that our forefathers warned us about. People like even Alexander Hamilton, pro-central banking Alexander Hamilton, knew how dangerous standing armies were to the liberties of Americans. And here we have standing armies that we call LEOs, law enforcement, peace officers, putting our lives and our rights on the chopping block because they got a call. Let's just finish out this Counterfeit News Network, and we're almost done on this.
When it's going to get hurt, someone has gotten hurt. I remember this happening over video games.
Yes.
Where someone got really hurt in all of this.
People have been killed.
And
He didn't get really hurt. He got really dead.
been killed.
Yeah, exactly.
He got dead as dead could be. I don't think you could get more dead than that guy who had a game controller in his hand. And he didn't get dead by swatters. No. He got dead by local law enforcement, the LEOs that I want to give a blanket of federalized qualified immunity to. Those are the people that I want controlling the situation. The standing armies that your forefathers warned you about.
It's extremely dangerous game. It'll be interesting to see from the FBI if they're ever able to find who.
And if there's any
is behind it.
connections to the attacks we're seeing recently on Tesla dealerships, on the cyber attack that Elon Musk said happened on X, because there is this connection with Elon Musk here.
Yeah. All right. Head House Gold. Great report.
There's this connection on, there's this disconnection on the constitutionality of said tyrannical act. Now, let me just go over. Remember when I told you that, let me just put Owen on the screen here. Remember when I told you that cops are not under any obligation or duty to protect you? Do you know who made that ruling? And I'm not saying that the black robe tyrants of the Supreme Court or anything, or that they should be respected or anything like that. But we do have this legislative structure in America. You know, the three branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Well, the judicial branch has declared that cops are under no obligation. They're under no duty whatsoever to protect any one of you. And it's couched in a particular context that should really startle every single one of us. There's two cases. The two cases are Town of Castle Rock versus Gonzales and DeShaney versus Winnebago County. We're going to go over both of them briefly. I've asked Grok to just summarize it for me, but we're going to pick out some key sentences in this to show you just how ridiculous a law enforcement officer coming to, I am here to save the day. Why are you here to save the day? to what extent are you going to go to save the day? Well, we're going to trample individual rights. We're going to make people insecure in the person's house with papers and effects. It's got to be like that because there could be dead bodies inside that house. And the community could be jeopardized if there's a madman with a gun in there. So we're going to trample rights. Well, I hear the excuse, but it's unconstitutional, officer. You know, you got to break your oath to do that, right? So the Supreme Court has declared in Town of Castle Rock versus Gonzalez in a 7-2 decision that Jessica Gonzalez did not have the constitutionally protected property interest in the enforcement of a restraining order against her estranged husband. So she had this restraining order against Mr. Gonzalez so that she and her 3 kids could be protected by the Town of Castle Rock Police Department. So the context is, hey, we know Mr. Gonzalez is bad. He's so bad, I need a restraining order because I fear for the lives of my kids. So I'm going to put a restraining order out, and it's going to be submitted to the Town of Castle Rock Police Department. So it says, the court, in an opinion written by Justice Antonin Scalia, held that the due process clause of the 14th Amendment does not require police to enforce restraining orders. Even though you submit a restraining order and you're under the impression that they're going to enforce this restraining order, which is a false sense of security because you feel like, hey, I've done my job. I filled out the paperwork. I submitted to the police department. Now the police department's going to keep us safe. Wrong. No, even when you put out a restraining order, the cops say they're going to keep you safe. But now, even if they said they would and they meant it, they can't be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When seconds count, police are minutes away. It's too late for them to get to you if Mr. Gonzalez's hands are around your throat or a gun is pointed at your head. So believing that you're safe because you put a restraining order, that's one thing, is kind of ridiculous. Come on, get your head out of your derriere and realize that I can't depend on that. But the second thing is, even with that restraining order in place, the Supreme Court said they don't even have a duty to protect you, even if they said they would. They have no duty. They're not on the hook for anything. Held that due process clause of the 14th Amendment does not require police to enforce restraining orders, even when state law appears to mandate such action. So even if the cops said they would do it, and the state that they operate in said, yeah, it's mandated, they got to protect you, the Supreme Court's like, no, they don't have to protect you. And yet, what's the excuse we hear of local law enforcement officers on the Owen Schroyers and the Daniel Shavers and the Philando Castiles and the Dennis Tuttles and Regina Nichols of the world? We're going to take away all of your rights so that we can protect you with fresh runs of tyranny. That's basically what they're saying. The majority reason that Colorado law did not create a personal entitlement to enforcement. You have no entitlement or expectation that those cops are going to save your ass for anything. They're not going to do it, especially if they're scared. I know I talk about this a lot, and I've got a separate video on my Here's the Deal channel, and you've got to see it. If you don't know the story of Johnny Hurley, put a 1 in the room if you're aware of the story of Johnny Hurley. Put a 2 in the room if you're not. If you're not aware of the story of Johnny Hurley from Arvada, Colorado, you really need to see the entire thing. There was this madman who hated cops. I mean, can you blame him? But this madman hated cops. Thank you, Copper. I appreciate that. He hated cops. And he decided, you know what? I'm going to eliminate as many cops as I can before I leave this world. So he got in his truck. He armed himself heavily, walked down the streets of Arvada, already picked one officer off, gone, dead. Johnny Hurley was in a store nearby shopping when he heard the shots. Johnny Hurley, an avid, pro-liberty kind of minded guy, carrying a weapon with him wherever he goes, because in his mind, you know what? I have a responsibility as an American to protect myself and others who might be in my zone of influence. Heard the shots fired at the Arvada Police Department, leapt into action with a mere handgun. This guy had a rifle. It was like an AR-15 style rifle, hunting for cops. Johnny Hurley leapt into action, took the guy out, went over to the guy's body after he took him out to take the gun away. When the 3 cops were literally hiding inside the Arvada Police Department because they were scared to death, saying, well, we were outgunned. We only had handguns and he had a militarized weapon. So we were scared for our lives. We couldn't come out. Johnny Hurley only had a handgun. He didn't have any kind of military gear or military training or military protective gear or equipment or a helmet or anything. He just realized, you know what? Something needs to be done. This man, this madman has to be stopped. Arvada police hid within their department. Well, Johnny Hurley did their work for him. And then when Johnny Hurley got done doing what should have been done in the first place, taking the evil man out, the scaredy cat Arvada Police Department shot and killed Johnny Hurley, who was the actual savior of the day. He was here to save the day. He did it without government funding, without government equipment, without government resources, without asking anybody for permission. And now Johnny Hurley is not with us because the scaredy cat Arvada Police Department didn't do what they were supposed to do because they were too freaking scared. So the majority reasoned that Colorado law did not create a personal entitlement to enforcement, as police discretion in handling such situations remained intact, and any mandate was not sufficient to establish a property right under federal constitutional law. As a result, the town of Castle Rock and its police department could not be sued under 42-1983. And 42-1983, let me just remind you, is the right to sue, personally sue a government agent who violated your rights, called deprivation of rights under color of law. You can't sue them for that because they have no obligation to protect you. So if they fail to protect you, even though you put out a restraining order, they don't have an obligation or a duty to protect you, so you can't sue them. For failing to protect Gonzalez, 3 children who were murdered by their husband after the police did not act on her repeated requests to enforce the order. Now, I want you to pay particular attention to the specific context in which this case is laid out. Mrs. Gonzalez and her 3 children have their lives in mortal jeopardy. She knows Mr. Gonzalez is a madman, so she takes a step thinking that she's going to be protected by putting out a restraining order against Mr. Gonzalez at the Castle Rock Police Department, and they failed. What ended up happening was Mr. Gonzalez ended up killing her 3 kids, throwing them into the truck, and then driving to the Castle Rock Police Department, parking his truck where he got into a shootout with police. Later, they found out that the 3 children who were no longer with us were expired inside the vehicle. All under the umbrella of, hey, there's a restraining order. And then the Supreme Court comes along and goes, but they didn't have a duty to protect Miss Gonzalez or her kids. And the reason I'm going over this is because people are telling me, but Brian, the cops are here for our safety and our security. They are under obligation. It is their duty to protect us. The Supreme Court summarily disagrees with you. And cops disagree with you. And I'm going to give you an example of that in a second after we go over another Supreme Court case. It says the decision reversed the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals and reinstated the district court's dismissal of the case, affirming, check this out, affirming that the government has no affirmative duty to protect individuals from private harm unless it, that's the state, the police department, has created the danger or taken the individual into custody. Let me give you an example of somebody who should have been protected under this ruling, but wasn't. Do you remember? It's also in the state of Colorado. I don't know why it's so epidemic in Colorado, but the police there are freaking crazy. Remember the cops who stopped that lady and they parked their vehicle on the railroad tracks and they took her into custody, arrested her, and locked her in the back of that police cruiser as it sat on the railroad tracks? And then the train came and plowed severely. I'm surprised the lady didn't die, but severely killing her. Under that context, they were under duty and obligation to protect that woman because they took custody of her, and yet they didn't even protect that woman. So if you expect me to believe that cops should get a pass for doing this right here, that right there, oh, they get a pass because they're just there to protect Owen Schroyer. Get the flip out of here with that freaking nonsense. There ain't case law doesn't support that. The Constitution doesn't support that. Common sense doesn't support that. And the continual actions of law enforcement throughout the decades in America doesn't support that. So what the hell are you talking about? There's no duty, there's no obligation for them to protect. But wait, there's more. There's also DeShaney versus Winnebago County. It says The U.S. Supreme Court concluded in a 6-3 decision that the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, see, it goes back to that, does not impose a constitutional duty on state or local governments to protect individuals from private harm. So when they get this call to, here, let's just go back to Owen Schroyer. So when they get this call to go protect Owen Schroyer, go protect whoever Owen Schroyer might be hurting, they don't have a duty. They don't have an obligation. They don't have an expectation from the perspective of the Supreme Court. And besides that, when they have a chance to actually take down a real perpetrator, oftentimes, I'm not saying all the time, but oftentimes they don't do it. And as a matter of fact, if you think about it, law enforcement puts lives in jeopardy a lot of the times. People who otherwise would have been safe are now put on the chopping block. When you remember the UPS driver, the FedEx driver or whatever, and they opened fire and there were like 200 cops firing in this direction. There's 200 and something bullets that were flying in every direction. One guy got at the side of his mirror. Another guy got actually grazed by a bullet. I don't know. Did they kill somebody in that? I'm not sure. But putting everybody in the roadway in danger because they decided to chase this vehicle. It's like the rationale cops use of, he was going 80 and a 40. Okay, so what was your remedy, officer? Well, I had to do 120 to catch up with. Okay, so wait a second. So you're saying the bad thing was the guy was doing an 80 and a 40, putting the general public at risk. But in order to keep the general public from being at risk, you decided to be the second car doing not only 80, but 120 to catch up with the guy who's doing 80. Can you explain that? And then they call their buddies. And more police arrive. And now there's more speeding vehicles out there, putting more people in jeopardy. The more government you add to a situation, the worse that situation gets. It wasn't even bad. As a matter of fact, the guy probably would have stopped speeding if you weren't chasing him. Now, not only is he speeding, he's going through red lights. He's taking sharp corners. He's putting everybody in jeopardy. And we've seen it time and time again. It's just it just seems like common sense to me to have cops not put people in this kind of predicament. So it says the case arose after Joshua DeShaney, a young boy, suffered from wait a second, let me get this all the way on the screen for you. Suffered severe brain damage from repeated abuse by his father, despite the Winnebago County Department of Social Services having been aware of the risk but failing to intervene effectively. So now you have another example of not just law enforcement, but social services not intervening when they could have actually helped somebody, but you see them intervening all the time, just ruining people's life for random reasons. It's freaking makes you want to pull your freaking hair out. In an opinion written by Chief Justice William Rehnquist, the court held that the Due Process Clause is a limitation on government action, not a guarantee of affirmative protection against private violence. Let me read that again. The court decided that the Due Process Clause is a limitation on government action. It's a limitation, not a guarantee that you're going to be protected by those government agents, not a protection against private violence. The majority reason that the state had not created the danger nor taken Joshua into custody, because if they had, then like that woman on the railroad tracks, now they're in your custody. Now you are obligated. Now it is your duty to protect them. But because Joshua wasn't in custody, they had no duty, and therefore you couldn't sue her under 42-1983 deprivation of rights under color of law. So what are people thinking here? The majority reason that the state, let me expand this for you. The majority reason that the state had not created the danger nor taken Joshua into custody, thus it had no constitutional obligation to protect him. Did you hear that? Cops don't have the constitutional obligation to protect you, but you know what they do have the constitutional obligation to do? To protect your rights, to make sure, double dog sure, triple dog sure, that you're secure in your persons, your houses, your papers, and your effects. And that should trump, we got a call that something really, really bad is happening in this house, and we need you to pull your guns out and check it out. Fourth Amendment stands. This doesn't stand. This is worthless. It's useless. if they can do this anytime they want, and you got conservative pundits not even talking about the true crime being committed here. The true crime being committed here is the cops are more than willing to decimate and obliterate your rights. And you look at any of these conservative pundits and they're pro MAGA, pro freedom. I'm a patriot. No, you're not. You're freaking not a patriot when you're saying that law enforcement can do what they're doing because they got the excuse that they're there to make you safe. So they have every right to take away your rights. Grow a oh man, I don't even cuss, man, but this boils my freaking blood. Grow a freaking spine. Grow a spine. Stop covering for the standing freaking armies. Stick by your rights. Hold fast to them. Do not give them up. That's why I constantly say what Samuel Adams said. If you love wealth better than liberty, if you love safety and security, and we got a call better than liberty, and the tranquility of servitude rather than the animating contest of freedom, and man, it is a contest because you got to fight against a bunch of nitwits who are just more than willing to let their rights go. I don't want the Democrats to take my rights. And believe me, Democrats are taking your rights away. But I don't mind if the law enforcement agents who are pro-MAGA take away my rights. So what do you want? You want the left boot of tyranny? You don't want the left boot of tyranny, but you want the right boot of tyranny? Because this is tyranny. What happened to Owen Schroyer? What happened to all those, if it truly happened to those conservative commentators, if it truly happened the way they're saying it happened, and I don't know. You want the right boot of tyranny on your neck? You freaking blah. You will love wealth, security, safety, comfort, law enforcement better than liberty. The tranquility of servitude rather than the animating contest of freedom. We ask not your counsel or your arms. Crouch down and lick the hands which feed you. May your chains rest lightly upon you, but may posterity forget that you were our countrymen. And that's what I say. Let posterity forget that you were our countrymen, you stinking whatever you want to call them, whatever. I'm not going to be brought to the low frequency vibe of using ad hominems or profanities, but I'll tell you what, man, I feel like it. I feel like unleashing a whole bunch of profanities because, man, this is ridiculous. It's egregious. It's irresponsible. It's cowardly. You don't ever let go of rights. You hold it fast and ain't nothing. Pry it from my cold dead hand. That's the idea of liberty. Or give me liberty or give me death. I don't want you to protect me. I ask not your counsel or your arms. Go from me. I mean, have peace. Let lick the master's hand. Have your chains. Whatever you want. Just get the frick out of my life because I'm going to forget that you even live in America with me. I'm not letting go of freedom. I suspect anyone who comes near this precious jewel. Where are those people? Where's that spirit? You got people going, I voted for Donald Trump because he's going to change the country. At least he's better than Kamala Harris. You're going to vote for the father of the VAXX. What the hell is wrong with you? You're going to vote for the guy who just gave 12 to 16 billion. What are we on day 55 of his presidency? He's already given 12 to 14, 16 billion dollars to Israel. Hell, you voted for that guy who's gearing up for World War III as he drops bombs in the Middle East, who dropped more bombs than Barack Obama? Where's the rationality? Where's the reason? Where's the humanity? It's like I'm looking at the Hindenburg. Where's the humanity? What the flippenstein is going on? So let's get back. I'll just finish this. I'm sorry, it was a diatribe. It was a rant. It has to come out, man. It has to come out. If it doesn't come out, I'll get pimples, Pimples, I'll start breaking out in a rash. I'll start itching like a dog. If I don't get it out. I feel like I'm going crazy, but that's okay because Nobody gets more crazy than I do. I'll just put a nice little signature on it. It'll be beautiful. It's a beautiful signature. And we'll drop some bombs, some beautiful bombs. Hello, military industrial complex. Could you make a couple drops for me? I thought I was going to blow a gasket. Too abstract. Somebody, power inherent in the people. What's up, man? Let's see. You know what? I'll shout out this. I promise I will shout out the super chats, but let me stay on course here. As a result, the county, that's Winnebago County, could not be held liable under 1983 for failing to prevent the abuse. So they weren't even responsible for the abuse of little Joshua DeShaney. The decision affirmed the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals and upheld the dismissal of the lawsuit, reinforcing that the Constitution does not require the state to act as a guarantor of individual safety in such circumstances. So even in the context of a restraining order, even in the context where CPS knows that harm is being done to a little kid, there is no obligation, there is no duty, there is no sense of responsibility on the part of law enforcement or CPS or anybody else to come in and save the day. So your argument on this right, doing this right here in Owen Schroyer or any American is freaking bogus. From the legal standpoint, from the constitutional standpoint, from the common sense standpoint, and from the standpoint of humanity, and even from the standpoint of local, state, and federal police officials. But wait, there's more. There's always more, right? Let me go to this right here. So I asked Grok, I was like, hey, what did the founders of the country say about standing armies? I think we all know, but it's really interesting and refreshing to get the exact quotes of the guys who said, you know what, give me freedom or give me death. You know what we're going to do, guys? We are going to go against the most prepared, the most heavily armed, the most formidable military ever in human history, because they put a couple percentage points on our T. Can you imagine if they were able to wake up and come out of their graves and take a look around and see what kind of bondage we've gotten ourselves into with the central banking cartel, the prison industrial complex, the war on drugs, which isn't a war on drugs, it's a war on people, the empire building, the foreign wars, the foreign aid, the military industrial complex that we were warned about by Eisenhower, the political parasites that are run by the corporate elitists, the DNC and the RNC, which are corporate entities, which just put their figurehead puppet up there so that we can all pretend like we got some kind of say in the matter as we're just happy sucking our thumbs on the plantation. Hey, who you going to vote for? Oh, I like Donnie Trump. He's a really good guy. Well, who are you going to vote for? I like Tommy Harris because, we ain't going back. We ain't going back. Make America great again. We ain't going back. It's like we're a bunch of little kids sitting in the back seat with one of those Tonka toy steering wheels, pretending like we're the stars. Wait, look, I'm steering. I'm actually directing the course of my own life. And isn't that what the left versus right paradigm lie does? It makes you think you're in actual control when you are in absolutely no control. Matter of fact, somebody's controlling you, but you think you're in control. How's that for a double deceptive whammy for you? So what the hell is Alex Jones doing on InfoWars? If you can hear the sound of my voice, you are the resistance. Really? What are you resisting, Alex? You're in the back pocket of one of the biggest globalists in the entire world, supporting Israel under the auspices of this dude named Donald Trump, who's calling himself the father of the VAXX. Well, Alex Jones says he's against the VAXX. What the hell's going on here? Jeez, what the heck is going on? Yeah, choosing a master every 4 years isn't liberty. Exactly, Victory Stone. All right, so what did the founding fathers say about standing armies? Well, here's what James Madison said. In Federalist 41, he said, the liberties of Rome proved the fatal victim to her military triumphs, and as the same dangers are to be apprehended in every government where a standing army is kept up, It ought to be limited as much as possible in time of peace. And why is that? Because Thomas Jefferson said, I am persuaded that a standing army is one of the most dangerous things to liberty, and I hope we shall take care not to have one. And yet, what do we have on American soil right now? We have got a standing army called local, state, and federal law enforcers doing this to the Owen Schroyers of the world. And they will do this to the yous and me's of this world. This is a standing army. They are standing by, waiting for your phone call. Dial before midnight tonight. Let us know what tyranny you want us to exact on you, and we'll bring it right straight to the door, right to your door. Brand new. Dial before midnight. New and improved tyranny under the guise of safety and security. Maybe we should make a song. I'm not going to sing. I will spare you. Unfreaking believable. You know, the safety and security of the people, the general welfare will always be the alibi of tyrants. Something you should expect, actually, because, you know, we know Israel wants to go to war. We know Donald J. Trump wants to go to the war, even though he campaigned on being against war. Something they're going to need to bring a whole bunch of people on board. And clapping like a bunch of brain dead, zombie-eyed seals is a false flag. We know that they need that. They need a new, quote, new Pearl Harbor, to quote from PNAC. They need to make sure that they can bring people to war by telling them, hey, democracy is suffering and we must go institute democracy in foreign lands. Israel's in trouble and we must support them. So we're going to have a proxy war fighting on behalf of Israel because of what Iraq is doing and the Houthis. It's all a dog and pony show, guys. I'm telling you, don't believe it, but do expect this. Do expect there to be some kind of, I don't know. So I was reading somewhere, somebody today, hey, maybe they'll take a carrier down. Maybe they'll take a battleship down. Maybe they'll, maybe a whole bunch of military men will go down. Maybe they'll do something here on American soil. Be watching for it. Be watching for it, because the time is ripe. We're due for a good old-fashioned FF. Thomas Jefferson said again, I'm persuaded that a standing army is one of the most dangerous things to liberty, and I hope we shall take care not to have one. And here's Alex Jones on the InfoWars show, just laying cover for the standing armies known as the Austin Police Department. George Washington, in his farewell address, said, overgrown military establishments are, under any form of government, inauspicious to liberty. They're not conducive to liberty and are to be regarded as particularly hostile to Republican liberty. Alexander Hamilton said in Federalist 8, standing armies are dangerous to liberty. The continual necessity for their services enhances the importance of the soldier and proportionably degrades the condition of the citizen. And isn't that what it's about? Let's degrade the condition. And I'm not, guys, understand this. I am not calling you a citizen. If you call yourself a citizen, you've already lost, whether you know what that term means or not, because a citizen is a denizen of the city. A denizen of a city is the subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So are you a subject? Is there somebody who's a king over you? Does anybody have a higher claim over your life and property than you? Is it ever right to initiate unjust force and violence on peaceful people like Owen Schroyer, who got his sleep disturbed, I'm sure, at 4 o'clock in the morning in Austin, Texas? Are you willing to give up your essential liberty for politically promised security, which will never come? Only more tyranny. If you ever negotiate with terrorists, you always get less freedom. You're never going to negotiate more freedom out of that deal. So Samuel Adams said, and this is the last one, a standing army, however necessary, may be at times, a standing army, however necessary it may be at some times, is always dangerous to the liberties of the people. And what did Daniel Webster say? Necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedoms. It's the argument of tyrants, and it's the creed of slaves. And that's why I'm doing this video. Because the creed of the conservative slaves is, dude, we got to have the Owen Schroyers of the world being disturbed. It's a small price to pay. so that we can maintain liberty and safety. I mean, liberty and freedom on American soil. So you're telling me in order to preserve liberty and freedom, we've got to take some liberty and freedom away because people got to be safe and there might be somebody who's hurt, even though the Supreme Court has determined that the police departments, state, local, federal, it doesn't matter, are not under any obligation or duty to protect you in any way, shape, or form. And even if they promised that they would, even if they believed that that was their mandate, they can never get there in time to save you. When seconds count, police are minutes away. Little reference there. Unfrickin' believable. James Freeman says, when Border Patrol asks, are you a citizen? They are asking, are you my subject? And you are to answer yes or be held. Very frickin' good point right there. Are you a subject? Are you my subject? Are you a citizen? If there was a takeaway in this video right here, and I'm glad James said that, because it does bring us back to a very important point. If you have the mentality of a slave, you will act like a slave. If you believe you're somebody's servants, then you're always going to be looking for a master. And isn't that what happens when you're voting for a politician that you know is going to lie to you? You know he's going to overspend the budget. You know he's going to be connected and dangle from the strings of the central banking cartel known as the Federal Reserve. You know he's going to help to create policies that inflate the money supply. You know that inflation is going to take root. You know the national debt is going to skyrocket. It always does. It never doesn't. It always does. So those who need rulers are unfit to choose them for others. And yet you continue to think that the solution to the problem is more government, as long as it's my government, with my guy wearing my color tie for my team, both teams of which are owned by the same puppet masters. So I don't understand. I truly, truly do not understand unless they're being paid or they really don't understand and they're that deep in ignorance. I don't understand people continuing to vote for the chains of their own oppression. Because what is politics? I mean, Larkin Rose pointed it out very specifically, and that's why I've chosen to memorize it, because it's unassailable. Politics is the clever and deceptive art of using euphemisms, lies, emotionalism, and fear-mongering in order to dupe average people like you and me into accepting and even one step further, demanding the chains of their own enslavement. They don't want you just to accept the chains. They want you to demand the chains. And then they want to further humiliate you. They want you to put the chains on your own wrists and ankles. And they want you to tighten down the screws into your own bones. That's why politics and politicians and voting is a humiliation ritual. Do you not realize that they actually want to see you go to the voting booth? They want to see you scramble like children on a playground going, my daddy can beat up your daddy. Oh, yeah, no, my daddy's more powerful. My daddy's going to institute policies that's going to make us more free. And then I'll get a chance to own the libs. And it doesn't matter. It seems like it doesn't matter what direction you go. The progressive idiot propagandists like Brian Tyler Cohen and the Midas Touch, Mises Touch, whatever, Midas Touch, Luke Beasley, Adam Mockler, Secular Talks, Kyle Kalinske. It doesn't matter if you're Bernie Sanders. It doesn't matter if you're the CNN crowd, the Counterfeit News Network, MSDNC. It doesn't matter if you're a conservative or Team MAGA. You're all playing for the same team owners, and they're just sitting back, stoking their Black Dragon cigars, puffing on them, drinking their cognac, looking over the bow of their $600 million yacht, going, those frickin' suckers. We haven't had to change the recipe for 113 years now since the advent of the Federal Reserve. The recipe's working good. The pie comes out perfect every single time. Those suckers are going to always go for a Donald Trump or a Hillary Clinton. And we even sprang a Bernie Sanders on there. And then we showed them that we were going to interfere with their own election. Showed them the emails and everything. And people are still thinking, oh my God, there's election fraud. Whether there's election fraud or not, every vote is a vote for them. It's a vote for the bankers. You get a Republican in there, the bankers are still in control. You get a Democrat in there, the bankers are still, they got their, look, we're going to make money. We got the magic money machine. Look at it right here. Even Elon Musk said to Ted Cruz the other day, we found 14 magic money machines. Oh yeah, what'd you do about it? How come you didn't take out your cell phone? You got a cell phone, don't you? Where's my cell? I don't have my cell phone. You got a cell phone, don't you, Elon? Why didn't you record the magic money machine? We got magic money. In some cases, Elon Musk actually says the right thing, but then he hooks up with Peter Thiel from Palantir Technologies, the Israeli police and surveillance state. You guys are going to fall for it? He actually says to this day he's a founder of Tesla, and you can look back at the documents and the lawsuits. He didn't found Tesla. Those other two guys did. He just became one of the big financial backers and then rewrote his own history to say that he was the founder of Tesla. The guy is known for stealing ideas. He's for universal basic income. You're against that, aren't you? He's for the carbon tax. How many times does he have to say that on the Rogan podcast? He's a transhumanist with Neuralink. I mean, like, when are you going to freaking wake up? Well, what's your solution, Brian? How about the solution is we walk off of the playground yard, stop pretending we're little children with Democrat. I'm for Team Elephant. Well, I'm for Team Donkey. You see how stupid it is? It's as stupid as being a sports fanatic. I'm for the Eagles. I'm for the Bears. When will you grow out of it? It's like the whole reality is constructed to numb your freaking brains and take you back to kindergarten. Because in kindergarten, you're easily controlled. You literally believe everything they tell you. You'll wave their flags. You'll wear their colors. You'll even put Donald Trump's name or Joe Biden's name on. Let's go Biden. Let's go Brandon. Oh yeah, the merch sells like crazy, but look for brains anywhere. Any spirit of resistance anywhere, gone. If you're in a voting line, you gave up a long time ago. If you're still voting for politicians and you think that they're going to solve your problems, if the government is the answer to your problems, you're asking the wrong question. Let me tell you that right now. At the very least, the very first thing we should do, if you're going to have a government, it should just be local, state, max, but federal, no way, no freaking way. They don't give a damn about you. They don't care what the Second Amendment is. They'll go, sure, you got a right to the Second Amendment. We're just going to tiptoe over here and put some restrictions on. Well, there's a high capacity magazine ban. Oh, and by the way, you can't have militarized weapons. None of those scary black AR-15s or AK-47 assault style rifles. No, you can't have that. And of course, you got to have background checks because you got to come to the government to ask for permission to do something you have a perfect right to do anyway. Everybody knows that, right? Do I sound crazy yet? Because I just described to you the entire policy, the anti-gun policy of Tulsi Gabbard and Donald J. Trump. Oh, and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Bernie Sanders. Anybody who wants to restrict your right to a gun, and I'm talking about the lightest, smallest nanoparticle of infringement, is your freaking enemy. Wake the frick, and you're going to vote for him? How demeaning. How humiliating. How demoralizing. Who the hell, and besides, who the hell do you think you are to choose a ruler for me? You know, it's one thing to be a dope and choose a ruler for yourself, but you're going to choose one for me and for my family? Screw that. And then you got a Trump or a Harris or a Biden get up there going, the American people voted me into office. Well, 72 million of them didn't. So why are you saying the American people? And Democrats do it. Republicans do it. They all do it. They just broad brush speak for the entire country when they know damn well most of them aren't on board with what they say. They're going to lie anyway. And then the fake stream CIA infiltrated Operation Mockingbird, MK Ultra Media jumps in on it. But channels like this get throttled. But you got Mario Narfall. He's got 300,000 people watching him. You got Alex Jones. I bet Alex Jones is on right now. I bet 500,000 people are watching him. Let's see. Oh, he's not doing a live stream right now. He's always doing a live stream. Let me just let's go over here. Just take a look at what's going on here. So yeah, I'm against what happened to Owen Schroyer. Let's see what let's go to just open up a fresh page and see who's live streaming right now. Oh, usually on the top of the page is Alex Jones with, you know, at least 700,000 people watching. I'm not even on the board, which, I mean, I don't know if that's fine or not, but I want this message to get out. The only way we can be free is to stop acting like we're slaves, to stop asking for permission, to stop listening to politicians, to stop believing that they're actually our heroes. And that's another thing. The thing about I have a problem with law enforcement is that when one of them dies as he's initiating some unconstitutional, outrageous road piracy traffic stop, harassing people that are never hurt anybody in their lives and don't plan to, but he expires on the job. Now, all of a sudden, you're stuck in traffic for 2 hours because they got a hero's funeral going on for the guy who's literally a revenue generator for the state. How's that? So the heroes become villains, the villains become heroes, and dark is light, light is darkness, bitter is sweet, sweet is bitter. And we have this inversion, this upside down world. Yeah, no freaking rulers. No freaking rulers. Let me go to, I was going to do a call in, but you know, an hour and 15 minutes, that's long enough for you guys to hear me ramble. Let me just go over some real quick super chats. I don't get that, Copper. I bet Penn did it. I don't understand that. Eli says law enforcement officers in the U.S. exist for 3 reasons. Number 1, feed the prison industrial complex. I agree, in tandem with the war on drugs, which is really a war on people spawned by Nixon over 50 years ago. Number 2, generate revenue. Number 3, protect the interests of government. Yep. And yeah, carry out the laws of the politicians. Remember, laws, I'm putting that in quotes, serve 2 main purposes. Number 1, they transfer power, because now your rights get trampled under the guise of, you want law and order, don't you? If we didn't have law and order, we would descend into utter chaos. The chaos makers are saying, no, if you don't submit to our law and order, we will have chaos. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that ironic? So it serves the laws, which are the opinions of politicians backed by the threat of force, serve 2 purposes. Number 1, to transfer power. You know, they're more powerful, you're less, and to transfer wealth. It's a wealth and transfer power scheme. So yeah, exactly, Eli. Black says, love your work, stay safe. Thanks, Black. Power inherent, the people says, let's get to work together by filing lawsuits ourselves. Propria persona. Thanks, Power inherent, the people. Jersey Bob gifted, oh, holy cow, 10 here's the deal memberships. So thank you. I appreciate you guys doing that. Appreciate you guys participating in this. But this, let me just close it out by saying this. The price of freedom is now and will always be eternal vigilance. And I agree with Jefferson. Indifference to this notion is the means by which the people have and will secure their own oppression. And I see massive indifference going on when you have political pundits like, you know, any number of the conservative pundits saying that this is acceptable because we need to be secure. We need to give up rights so that we can be secure. That is nonsense. Nothing could be further from the truth. Nothing could lead to greater tyranny than giving up our freedoms so that the police can brush away their constitutionally protected, I mean, their constitutional right to, not their constitutional right, but their oath of office to protect us, to protect our rights, not to protect us. Don't protect me. Stand against any villain who wants to take my rights, including people in your own law enforcement. They are under no obligation or duty to protect you, but they are under an obligation and duty to protect your right to freedom of speech, freedom of press, your right to keep and bear arms, and your Fourth Amendment right. They don't care about you. because they violate all of those at all times in every freaking state. Try to go to Hawaii and open carry. Open carry on the streets of New York. Bacchus Mill will tell you what will happen to you real fast. And why is that? Because the NYPD, which is discovered back in the 1970s and the 1990s under the Knapp Commission and the Mullen Commission, they were discovered to be so corrupt that they couldn't find one good cop in the entire organization. But if you decide to open carry and exercise your right to keep and bear arms in New York City, go to Times Square and try to do it. I'm not suggesting you do. I'm just being facetious here. You're going down, man. They will clear out. Probably the sheep will scatter and leave it really easy for you to be picked off by the NYPD. They'll get the battering rams. They'll take out the horses. I'm sure they got MRAPs, drones, helicopters in the air. You don't have a Second Amendment right in almost any state. Even the constitutional carry states, of which there's 27, 28, 29 now, you don't have an unalienable right to strap a fully automatic weapon, an M60 on the back of your back and walk the streets on public sidewalks. You do not. You don't have that. Even if it's a constitutional carry state, the ATF will get a call. Hey, they violated the National Firearms Act of 1934, which prohibits the carrying of fully automatic weapons. No. And guess who specializes in depriving you of those rights? Because let's say the politician said, yeah, you don't have the right to keep and bear arms, but the law enforcers who are supposed to enforce those policies don't do it. Well, those policies don't have any teeth and you can do whatever you want. But the law enforcers are making sure that you don't have freedom of speech, freedom of press. Ask James Freeman this. How many times has he been in jail just because he had a camera in his hand recording a cop from a public place? They're not going to uphold that. Your right to freedom of speech. They're not going to uphold your Second Amendment rights. They're breaking into people's houses, killing their dogs, killing their family members. You think they really care about Owen Schroyer right here? No, they do not. So I'll just close this saying, yeah, freedom has a price and you better not let it go. Because if you do, we will soon be, and we kind of are, North Korea right now. If you ain't free in Texas without some Austin police officer violating your rights at 4:00 in the morning, you're not free. If you're not free to record in a public place, you're not free. If you're not free to go 7 miles an hour over the speed limit without getting harassed by a policy enforcer, you're not free. Stop saying the solution to this is this. Smell the salts of reality. Okay, we are not free. Put the glasses on like Roddy Piper did, and They Live. Look around, read what the billboards actually say. Go look in a mirror somewhere and go, I've been operating as a low frequency slave and I need to realize what's actually going on here, and then spread this message like wildfire to others. And only then can change actually happen. Only then. It is eternal vigilance. And indifference to this freedom is the means by which the people have and will secure their own oppression. Let's stop securing our own oppression and let's start today. Thanks for joining me. I will see you in the next live stream. Take care.